there, Sagittarius Sun and Rising. Welcome to your November 2022 Astro Update. It's Rena here, your fellow Sag Sun, or if you have Sag Rising, I'm still in solidarity with you. So when I was doing these forecasts for other signs, I was struck by how much Sag energy there is this month. Now, this is Sag season coming in with the third week in the month and the sun going into Sagittarius, but it's not always the case that you're going to have other personal planets also there and the new moon there. So that's what makes it very interesting. The first dramatic transit that I want to speak about is the lunar eclipse at 16 degrees of Taurus, which is occurring on the 8th of November. For those of you who live in the United States, you may know that this is election day. So as far as it affecting the collective, there is a very good chance for that, even though eclipse energy is thought to be also in play before the actual eclipse date. I've heard a month and then maybe even 6 months later. I do feel that with all of these astrological transits, that the date that it occurs has to be really taken into account, though, even with eclipses. And so a lunar eclipse is a powerful full moon. It can bring something to a crisis point. This eclipse is forming a conjunction with Uranus, which is a planet of technology and of sudden surprises. Well, a surprise would be sudden, wouldn't it? But I mean of suddenness, kind of shocking or surprising things happening when people don't expect it. And it's also about freedom. So twists and turns. I had mentioned on another video that I would not be surprised if the internet went down on that date. And, there's been talk about the internet just going down and just having a blackout where we are not able to use, to obtain information online for X number of days, let's say. And I could see the scenario of whoever wants to interfere with the election doing so on that date specifically. It just so let me put it this way. I just found it very interesting that it was happening on this date because I live in the Chicago area, and I'm already pretty immune to the shenanigans that occur in my great city. So anyhow, we shall see, won't we? But on a personal level, Taurus affects the 6th house of Sag. Some of you, this may be actually felt in your 5th house. I don't try to get cute about that, but it's at 16 degrees of Taurus. So it's perhaps affecting some of you in a prior house, which that would be like love at first sight or some kind of creative ideas, or if you are somebody who has already created something. It could even be like a video, given the nature of technology associated with Uranus. But I'm saying the online reaction could be a viral video, or you just get like a lot of play with something and it takes off like a wildfire. So I'm just going to concentrate talking on the 6th house, because that's, if we were looking at it from a whole system perspective, that would be the house that we deal with here. And this is the house of work and health. So a lunar eclipse here, in conjunction with that Uranus, could be a scenario where if you do not like your job, that you just walk off and you don't even look back. Now, it's interesting because sometimes when you're trying to absorb what each house stands for and that kind of thing, you get involved in these little contradictions and it kind of bugs you, at least I do. And the 6th house is the house of work. The 10th house is the house of career. But sometimes we might think that they're interchangeable. And it's like, how do we differentiate the two? So I say that the 6th house is our service to others. And sometimes that service is almost in a very dutiful way because we're working a job, not a career. See the difference between when we say I have a job or I have a career. Usually a job is something that you can just get. You don't have to go to school for it. You don't have to get necessarily extensive training, and you can just do it. And it usually has lower status than a career. However, there might be people who they work in a retail environment and they just enjoy it. They don't want to go to school for 4 or 8 years or longer to have some kind of quote unquote career. They're happy where they are because they just have that natural mentality of like, I want to be productive, I want to be employed. And that's the main goal for them. But sometimes due to circumstance or whatever you want to say, maybe somebody doesn't believe in themselves enough. And so they just take a job that they don't like and they feel kind of like imprisoned by it. This could be a time when you're like jailbreak time and you just don't even care about how much money you have saved, or maybe you have saved the money and now you can do it. But I feel like there's a suddenness about this. Remember that in a lot of these cases, it's a long time coming. It isn't something that the person, has temporary insanity and they do something foolish. They've been wanting to do it. And there's a saying, jump and the universe will provide a net. Is that true? I don't know if I would, obey that literally. You might have a broken bone. But in terms of taking it figuratively, I think that in some cases, that's exactly what has to happen because sometimes people can't save the money. They're living hand to mouth. And yet they have a job that's kind of sucking at their soul. I'm not, this is not me recommending that anybody do it, but I'm just saying that I feel that sometimes people feel that they have to do something like that, and it comes on them like that. The whole point of the lunar eclipse is that it's almost like fate stepping in. Maybe it's something where everybody in the office gets pink slips and, they all get fired at once. And it's like all of a sudden your work life is turned upside down because the 6th house can be your daily routine. And it's like this dramatic shift. But that's what happened to the world in 2020. Is that there was this dramatic shift where everybody was forced, or most people, I should say, were forced to sit their butts at home. And they, there was no further information, guarantees, whatever. And I think that these kinds of things, we can argue about why that occurred, but we can't really argue that it had a profound effect on many people. And that's when Some people had a spiritual awakening because until that point, they were so immersed in the rat race, being on that hamster wheel, that 9 to 5 existence, that this totally forced them to, change on a dime. And so there could be something dramatic that affects your daily schedule. But the Uranian connection here and this is actually the exact same degree, 16 degrees. And it's interesting, I don't think anybody has really focused on this. I don't, listen to very many astrologers, but I still listen to a few. Sometimes people bring up the degree, Sabian symbols. Sometimes I'm not sure I resonate with those. Those are kind of strange, but they're interesting. But I'm talking about numerology or other occult references, connections. And in the tarot, the card that is numbered 16 is the Tower card. So there you go. And the lunar eclipse with this conjunction with Uranus retrograde, to me, is a perfect idea of the Tower. I have to find out exactly why it has that connection numerologically, because it must be something. You take the numbers separately, 1 and 6, and one is a very independent number, probably associated with Mars because of Aries, the first house, but 6 is Venus, is connected to Venus. So it's funny, we're talking about, well, this is the 6th house too, but you also combine the numbers and it comes out to 7. 7 is the turning point. So it might have something to do with that, with the Tower, though it seems so much about disruption. So I should have checked that out before, but it just occurred to me right now. I'm just doing these on the fly. So see what happens, and how this connects to your freedom, Sag. And speaking of Sag, then all I have to tell you about is Sagittarius energy. Venus goes into Sag on the 16th. Mercury goes in a day later on the 17th. The sun goes in on the 22nd. And the new moon, not all of it is Sag. The new moon goes into Sag on the 23rd, a day after the sun goes there. And on the same day that we have a new moon in Sagittarius, our ruler, Jupiter, goes direct, albeit in Pisces, 28 degrees. So this is 4th house of home and family. So the Sagittarius energy is 1st house energy. Venus there makes you attractive. Oh, maybe you'll look better, I don't know. Or maybe you'll, gussy yourself up. That's a possibility. But I'm speaking about magnetism. Having good things come to you. Venus is the attractor. And Venus is even about money. So you may be more of a money magnet at this time. Mercury in this house the next day. This is good for the writers among us, and I am one of them. But any form of communication, if you're looking for work, if you're looking to sell yourself, this is really about that. Because, some people are wading back into the dating pool, and they are trying to communicate who they are to a potential partner. It helps to have Mercury in your sign so you can be your authentic voice. The new moon in the first house can indicate new beginnings. I do feel that this new moon in Capricorn is going to, which is on December 23rd, also at 1 degree of Capricorn, is going to be, for the vast, vast majority of us, more of our new moon. So, we can take it symbolically because the sun has also gone into that house. And so that is a new cycle in and of itself. But if you don't really feel that new beginnings are at hand, you can, at the very least, because it's only at 1 degree, you can at least, the 12th house is a very intuitive area. We could call it the womb of creation. So creating from that spiritual perspective to birth into the physical as we go into the new cycle, towards the end of the month, maybe, much more on point. So don't hesitate to utilize that energy, perhaps later in this year, towards the end of this year, when we have a new moon in Capricorn. But you can at least start the ball rolling. And so Jupiter going direct is always great for Sag, for obvious reasons. It will not be back in Aries. I don't know when it's going back to Aries. It might be in December. That's a possibility. Pisces forms a square with Sag. But even with squares, when you're dealing with Jupiter, there's no such thing as a bad, anything. When it goes retrograde, when it squares, opposes, there's always, Jupiter is such a benefic influence that the squares just make you more determined to make things happen. And this is in the area of home and family. So, and it is in a late degree of Pisces, so that will also make it less likely to square your sun or ascendant. And so enjoy this forward moving energy as well. Okay, that's what I have for you, Sag. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, I have my double readings that I'm promoting. And especially during this time when you are experiencing your solar return, you may find that my package deal called Deep Dive Reading is something that is really meaningful for you because it combines an hour of natal chart interpretation with an hour of upcoming transits for the next 12 months. And I do have these readings separately. So the transits reading, if you want me to look at your exact transits, not this general type of reading, I would be happy to do that. But the natal chart analysis, I feel, is very important. I honestly, personally, am always more interested in my natal chart than anything else, because I feel that this is what alchemy, personal alchemy, evolutionary astrology is all about, meaning that we are looking at our cosmic blueprint for this lifetime, not for, all our lifetimes, for this time that we have incarnated, and how does it impact our life? What are our patterns? And a lot of times people go through life feeling that life is happening to them and not seeing their place in the dance. And I've been, I have to admit, this applies to me too. And the irony is, it's been after I've been doing readings for other people that it started to, or actually readings on YouTube especially, that it started to sink in that, when I was doing readings for the things that were true for me. I mean, like for instance, I did the sun in the eighth house. And I think that's the moon in Scorpio is my biggest video. But the sun in the eighth house, I've gotten a lot of comments for and people talking about their experiences. But I've done, I have the sun in the eighth house. I have the moon in conjunction with Pluto, and that's very scorpionic. And so as I was doing those videos and realizing that I was that, things started to make sense to me. And I'd never thought about it that way before. And so even when you're in the midst of it, you can still have these revelations. And they really do affect how you operate in a good way. Even though it sometimes can take time for it to sink in and for you to implement. That's what evolution is. They never said evolution was instantaneous. Maybe in some cases it can be, where it's just like one day a person's one thing and the next day they just, like an addiction that somebody quits like overnight. But, it's just fascinating, really. So the natal chart to me is a wealth of material that can be very validating, actually. Certainly was for me. But yeah, that's called my deep dive reading. I have another package deal. And these are, discounted because you're buying 2 for 1. It's not, 2 for the price of 1, but it's just, like $30 off or something if you bought them separately or something along those lines. And then I have one with the tarot that's also a package deal. And then I have, standalone readings. You can find out more information at the link below. I'm at RainaMoonAstrology.com. Thanks for listening. Take care. Bye.